Welcome to Downright Mindful. Stories that stick, questions that matter, and conversations that make you think. Let's get right down to it.
So sometimes in class, there's this activity that it's pretty effective, and we go with first thought, best thought. And there's a process in between that. So I'll throw something at you, and you just give me your first thought. Try not to filter it. Makes it more effective.
Okay.
But best thought means, man, we're going to need more ideas. It's that whole idea of divergent thinking. We've gone there before. I bring up Triss in the movie and just this whole idea of like, she is a symbol for me of it's got to be more than one way. Got to be more to that. There's layers to this. So second, third, fourth, fifth. Have I got to best thought yet? Well, I don't know yet. So now we've got 8 things laid out. That was my first thought. Could still end up being, rarely is, the best thought. But you got to start somewhere. And then you got to land somewhere and you got to move on.
Okay.
Okay, there's another thing. Let's go with there's a story and there's a better story. So it's kind of that idea of like first thought. We're not quite getting to best, but better. So one more time. Today, you and I, we're going local. Okay, local.
Okay.
So try not to filter. Try to give me first story that comes to mind. And then you'll go, well, and then you'll give me a better story, a fuller story, a better connector story. But one of the objectives, there's 2 objectives. One of the objectives is try to give me your first one because you're going to get quiet and you're going to contemplate.
So you want the raw.
Yeah.
Even if it's 2
stories.
Only important
it's super simple.
Even if it only means something to me.
Well, yeah, I mean, but watch, it's local. So it's going to mean something to somebody.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm already having anxiety of your expectations of my answers, but yes, I'm ready.
I didn't even say the word expectation. I said objective. There's 2 objectives.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. First story, and then see if this sits better with you. First story, another story. I didn't even use the word better. Follow me?
Yeah.
This isn't semantics. This is to ease your tension.
Okay.
Okay. So watch. This is local, and I mean, I don't know if we'll do this for 8 minutes or we'll do this for 80 minutes. Let's just see what happens.
Okay.
I say Paul Huff Parkway.
Yeah.
Give me watch this. Could be a Matt Paris story. Could be a Paris story. Shoot, it could just be a Cleveland story that you know of. See, I'm buying you some time on this first one.
Yeah.
So could be connected to anybody. So it may not be an I story or our story. It could be their story. Man, you start talking local. That's a we. It's us. So Paul Huff Parkway.
So my brain just went to my first memories of Paul Huff Parkway in that area because I lived, when I was born, my parents brought me home to 1916 Rolling Brook Drive, which, by the way the crow flies, that's a pretty straight shot from Paul Huff Parkway up what we call Stewart Road and across to Michigan Avenue there. But as you would come into toward town, because back then, if you came up Stewart Road and you're going to continue on to Paul Huff Parkway, you weren't going toward town anymore. But in the context of my house, you were. But you'd
Give
come
me
up
a year, because I get here at 1995 and Walmart's there.
Oh, yeah. Well, whenever I started forming long-term memory of the visions of that road.
4, 5, 6,
I'm born
7.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly. I'm probably in grade school, kindergarten, 1st, 2nd grade, somewhere in there. But there's nothing, I don't remember anything there. I remember, let's take it from the context of I'm driving up Stewart Road from the direction of where First Baptist is now toward Paul Huff Parkway. So Walmart would be on my left. The Bradley Square Mall now would be on my right. Okay. Back then, I don't remember really anything to the right. I'm not saying there was nothing, but I don't remember anything. This is pre-Bradley Square Mall. There was probably a couple of little local owned businesses on the highway, right up on Highway 11, I would say, to the right. But to the left, there was a beautiful old white farmhouse and rolling country. And We're gonna answer that.
I don't know.
You're getting a call from a guy we mention on here all the time.
Gosh, all the time.
Chris Cretton calling. We don't have him hooked to the speaker, but
hey, buddy, what's up?
What you doing?
Well, I'm right in the middle of a Downright Mindful episode, and we have mentioned your name so many times, and I have even invited you to be a part. We just decided to answer the phone.
Wow, y'all are wild.
Is that what the definition of wild is these days?
So I'm on a podcast right now.
The record button is on, yes.
And you're on speakerphone.
Well, I was just calling to catch up. I'm on my way to Water Oak Ramblers band practice.
Well, I'm going to call you soon, and we're going to catch up, and we're going to take a walk, but you've got to come sit in this room with us. Make that commitment.
All right, we'll make it happen.
Before June 1 happens.
Friday, we're playing at Hawk Creek if you want to come hear some bluegrass.
Where's that
at? Near Johnston Woods. So it's these old log cabins. Tommy Newman's dad took them apart, brought them to their property, and there's like 7 or 8 of these old 1800s log cabins. So we're playing there. We're opening for a band that's gonna be pretty awesome. So
is it by the ski lake? He can't hear me.
Is it about the ski lake?
Matt Paris would know where it's at. It's off of
Johnson School Road.
Johnson School Road.
Yeah.
Ask him if it's near the ski lake.
Is it near the ski lake?
Near Tommy Newman's. Let's see.
Do you know Matt used to live out there?
That's why I said that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I figured you did.
Yeah. So if you turn on Johnson School Road off of that Southley Highway, it's like less than a quarter mile on the left.
Okay.
So
easy.
Yeah. It's
when is this?
This Friday.
Friday.
5:30.
Friday, 5:30.
Or actually 5, because I think there's food trucks and stuff there. So.
Okay, we got eyebrows up.
All
Hey.
right, buddy.
You in a hurry? You got one more question?
What's that?
Okay. So we're going a little local today, and just first story and then another story, and I just throw out a place. Paul Huff Parkway. Do you remember what was out in that field before Walmart and Bradley Square Mall? Do you have any memories of that?
I do not. I wish I did. Wait, do you have a year when that was developed?
I don't. When I got here in 95, both were there.
I mean, the Walmart.
Yeah.
Tell him the Walmart was open when he and I would have been in about the 5th or 6th grade.
Probably 5th or 6th grade for y'all. Are y'all in the same grade?
Yes.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
before, ask him if he remembers the mini golf.
Do you remember the mini golf being out there?
Mini golf off Northley Highway?
Yeah, Northley Highway. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. There's 2. I'm talking about the
that was
the mini golf where the Walmart is now that had the big mountain and like the gorilla.
I do not remember mini golf near, and I grew up on Mouse Creek Road, so I weirdly do not remember that.
I got
Of course,
you.
I have a terrible memory, but
I doubt that, but
I doubt it.
maybe it's just repressed.
Very cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't really remember what that would have looked like, or so.
Okay. Well, I need a commitment by June 1. Can you make this happen? Can you get out here with us by June 1st of 2025?
Did he just hang up on you? That's fantastic.
That's hilarious.
Man, yeah.
That's my guy.
I can tell you Walmart was built when I was in the 5th or 6th grade because I remember I was at Black Fox Elementary and some of the students in my class had been there like 3 or 4 times. And I thought like, God, these are the rich kids or something. I've never been to Walmart there at that location. It was a big new thing. I mean, it's a super center and there's a McDonald's in there and just, wow, I've never heard of anything like this. But prior to that, unless I have dreamed this up, there was a pretty big outfit, like Goonie golf course. And I can remember like a man-made little mountain and like some animal, like a gorilla statue, I want to say. And there must have been a driving range there because I just feel like I remember there being like nets down Paul Huff
Well,
Parkway.
I remember that.
Okay.
So
I'm not crazy.
I think that was further on down.
Was it on
Or
down
maybe
toward like
Home
Lowe's?
Depot.
Lowe's,
maybe Lowe's.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my memory's sketchy on that. But I do have some faint memories of just like almost like farmland or like an old home place is what keeps coming to my mind. Like a big white house.
Okay. Now watch this.
Yeah.
We can't do this the whole time.
Okay.
We can't try to remember things
Yeah.
because there are folks that just know and they're like, nah, this was there and this was here. And like, then that came in 87 and this one came in 94. Okay. Right.
Well, I'm telling you actual memories, but
Give me a story.
I'm a guy who understands how memory works. So
Are you bragging right now? What are you, some psychoanalyst? What are you talking about? How memory works?
No, I mean, we've talked about this on podcasts
I know.
before. My memories can be influenced.
Oh, yeah.
So
You're
can
going all
yours.
criminal justice. Like
Yeah.
coming. Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's criminal justice. It's
No,
probably
it is.
something else. But
It's a box that, we peek in and go, oh, yeah, that's that context for us. You got to give me a story. So, like for me, I come to Lee and it's Applebee's or O'Charlie's. Remember those days?
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I ain't got no money. And I hated going when everybody was like, hey, let's go to O'Charlie's, let's go to Applebee's. I didn't have any money.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd go and I'd either like not go or I'd go and somehow I'd scrounged up because like $3 could get you something back in the day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like that $3 was like 3 out of the 10 that I had for this week or whatever. And so I remember O'Charlie's and Applebee's being a place where like, gosh, I can't stand going there, even though I love it. So later in life, when you got some money in your pocket and you're feeding your family and you can order anything you want off the menu, there's always still, even today, Matt Paris, I can go into O'Charlie's or Applebee's. But it has to be on Paul Huff Parkway. If it's anywhere else, it doesn't give the same effect. But like I don't know if I smirk or if I smile, but I remember those days of like having nothing and going, why can't we just go hang out? Why do we got to go spend money? I got no money to spend. That's what those two places mean to me.
Yeah.
Tell me a story, Paul Huff Parkway.
I don't know if I have a story, especially from then. I can.
Anytime. You can be 38 years old.
Well, I remember we used to drive past. This isn't Paul Huff Parkway, but you could see it from Paul Huff Parkway. You remember Prime Sirloin? Was that around when you were here? There's
Went to Golden Corral. That ain't here anymore.
No, that's not here anymore. Prime Sirloin was right down, just on the other side of Staples from Walmart. Is it Fulin's? It's some kind of Japanese place?
Yeah.
That's where Prime Sirloin Steakhouse was. And I can remember driving past there on Sundays.
Taco Yaki. Is that what you're talking about?
I don't know. I've never been in there since it was.
Because Staples is there, and then you got the AutoZone, and then you got the new Wingstop, and then like Eli Bain got himself a tattoo at the Black Hand Tattoo, and then you got Taco Yaki. Is that where you're talking
Is
about?
Taco Yaki in its own building right there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably it. It was some kind of 50s diner after Prime Sirloin, but then before then it was Prime Sirloin. I just remember we always go, we go home after church. The whole crowd, hey, y'all want to go eat here? Y'all want to go eat? Nah, we're going home. We're going home. And I remember driving past there and we would see like a line out the door. And then one time I was a patrol officer and I was looking for this guy. Of course, I wouldn't name his name, but I was very familiar with him and his brother. He was wanted on felony warrants, and everybody been looking all over every address we had for him. We just been burning them up. And we knew this guy was still in town based on information that people were giving us. Well, I'm coming from the northeast side of the county, going over to the northwest side of the county. Do you know how you get there? Paul Huff Parkway. So I'm sitting at the red light at Stewart and Lee Highway, or Highway 11. And coming out of the McDonald's straight over to the other lanes, looking at me with his teeth shining, is this guy. And in my passenger seat, I have a felony warrant for that guy. And And I'm like, man, that's a horrible time to go to McDonald's. So he goes out Huff Parkway, and he lays eyes on me, and he knows who I am. I can tell by the look on his face. So all I can think is, all right, this guy's going to run from me. Period. End of story. He's going to run. He's already proved prior to this encounter that he will run. And I'm in the oldest car in the fleet. I'm brand new on patrol. I know this guy from working in corrections for years, you know. So I'm in the oldest, crappiest car in the fleet. I've just started on patrol. And in my mind is, if I light him up right here, all I could envision was him just taking off and like T-boning some family of 4, because this is a busy part of town. So I don't. I start calling on the radio and getting people in place. Hey, I'm going toward the interstate. Maybe get me a car to the interstate. If I can't get one there quick enough, even the Southwest cars, get toward the interstate in case he gets on the interstate, because that's what I would do if I was going to run from somebody. So he goes up, takes a left onto the interstate. He's southbound. Well, I've got a car communicating with me in the Southwest saying, hey, I'm getting over toward exit 20. So he does. I'm waiting to see, fast forward a little bit, I'm waiting to see if he goes exit 20 or if he goes toward Chattanooga. As soon as he makes that decision, I'm going to light him up. I've got another car close enough to me, and we're getting to the point where I'm going to light him up and he's going to be in another county if I'm not careful. So I light him up just as we're going under the bridge, exit 20, and he stops and he does the old, I'm just going to sit here. So I just sat there. I didn't move because I didn't want to get out of the car and then him take off. And he's in a brand new, this was another thing, Volkswagen is just up and going at this point. And they've put out these new Passats, and they're like turbo, and they're pretty quick, I come to find out. But I sit there for a minute, and when he realizes I'm not getting out of the car, he stomps that car and just about jumps off the ground. And there's no traffic at this point. This is probably, I'd say this is, if I had to guess, it's 10 o'clock at night. And there's no cars going up White Oak Mountain. But I remember I was going like 110, and my car couldn't decide what gear it wanted to be in. It's just literally the little engine that could at this point.
Are these Crown Victorias?
This was an old Crown Vic. Yeah, this is probably in the year 2012, and this was probably a 2002 Crown Vic that had, it had put together half a police officer's career of just being stomped on the street. Anyways, I just remember I was going about 110, and I might as well have been in reverse. I mean, he was gone that quick. And I think we picked him up the next day at his mama's house or something. But that all started. I just could remember, gosh, man, here I am right in the city, because there was traffic on the street there. You could imagine. This is on Huff Parkway.
Yeah, that is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So, like, first story, you're just trying to find, kind of where you're at, whatever's going on.
Yeah.
And then give me another story. That's what we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah, that was fun. So if you need to tap into more of that, because you in that car, you've been everywhere. Is that a true statement?
In Cleveland?
Do you think you've hit every road, street in the county?
If I haven't, I don't have the knowledge to say I haven't.
Yeah.
I would imagine I probably have.
So if I say, because we're going here.
Okay.
Keith Street. Give me a story.
Keith Street?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So define Keith Street first.
You define Keith Street.
All right. So it's from 3rd Street to, I would say from 3rd Street to.
Help me more. 3rd Street. Like
Boys Club.
Yep. Okay.
Where South Lee Highway splits there. That's 3rd Street that runs in front of the Boys Club. Mm-hmm. I would call it Keith Street from there up until.
So that's South Lee Highway going to Bradley High School and down?
Yeah, I would. Well, according to Matt Paris.
Sure.
Yeah. I would no longer call that Keith Street.
Okay, so we're on Keith Street.
To Ocoee Street, where Ocoee ties back in with Highway 11.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably stop calling it Keith Street about right there, and then it'd be North Lee Highway. In any of those, we could call it Highway 11, and
Like
I'd know where.
to Walmart,
Yeah,
to that intersection we just talked about with Paul Parkway.
Yeah, I'd be. It'd be
So
a
that's
good
Key
little-
Street. All right, give me a story.
Well, obviously, well, I don't know if it's obviously for you, but there's the Friday and Saturday night cruising the strip.
Man, when I first got here, it blew my mind. I had never lived in a place where like, this is like out of, what movie am I thinking of? Where I'm Dirty Dancing is in my mind, but that's not the movie I'm talking. Kevin
No.
Bacon, Let's Do a Dance. Come on, help me out here, man.
Footloose.
Footloose. Yeah, it's got like a Footloose feel to it. It's like, what is going on in this town? Yeah.
What was that other one that was like Grease, but it wasn't Grease?
Grease, but it
Was
wasn't
it Johnny?
Grease.
Was Johnny Depp in it? I'll never think of it.
Okay.
I'll never think of it. Yeah, Keith Street is involved in that. Cruising the strip. That would mostly be 25th Street, but you got to make that L.
Yeah, you do.
There on.
You were cruising in high school, weren't you?
Absolutely.
Does that start like in 8th grade? I don't know. What's your initiation into cruising? Who was willing to pick you up at what age and says, let's go?
Well, I had an older brother.
Yeah.
And my older brother had a lot of buddies. So, yeah, probably more like 9th grade. And then, I had like youth group friends that were old enough. And for the most part, it's pretty innocent. Now you get out there and you get an education. You see some things. You run into some folks that aren't that innocent. You're starting to see like real fist fights that aren't immediately broken up by teachers. You're gonna witness some of that. You're gonna see kids drag racing. You're gonna see people doing stupid stuff. But just riding around in a circle, wasting gas. Now the older kids, the ones who are paying for their own gas money, they're working jobs. Those are the ones you find. Hey, I'm gonna go over here in this Ace Hardware parking lot, or I'm gonna go over here at Checkers and we're gonna hold up and park. And the police used to come over and run us off all the time. There was a while there, if we could, we go get an ice water from Checkers, and because we had a Checkers cup in our hand, we were customers, so we'd make that argument. But
so that's not a thing anymore. There's too many signs, and it's gone away.
Well, now it's just. Or at least when the boys were in high school, there was a crowd of folks that would go and hang out at, what's that little burger and hot dog stand right there at Keith and 25th? It's more or less a big concession stand.
Oh, yeah.
What's that place called?
The boys love it. Cookout.
Yeah, Cookout.
Yeah.
There was a crowd there for a little. Kyler used to always ask, "Can I go to Cookout?" No. I think his senior
cheer wine
year.
float though, man.
Huh?
You ever had a cheer wine float at Cookout?
No.
Oh,
I've never been big on floats.
what's wrong with you?
I don't know.
Root beer float, Coke float, Dr. Pepper float.
I don't know. Maybe I need to revisit it as an adult, but as a kid, I just wasn't. I'll take a Coke or I'll take a scoop of ice cream. I don't want them both in the same.
Both of them,
It just does something different to it.
Were you ever on patrol while we're still cruising and you had to be that guy?
I was on patrol while we're still cruising, but I'm a county deputy, man. I've only got a couple of like really in-city stories, and those were as like a drug detective, or there were a couple times when CPD was in response to like a shooting or something, and we would come in from the county and start answering calls. So yeah, I've run up and down 25th Street and visited that alarm that was going off at that bank that turned out to be nothing, or that these people that were indecent over in this certain parking lot. We go check on that, but before you know it, those guys, they get done with what they're doing and they take those calls back over.
Yeah, I think, for me, Keith Street, I don't know, 3 short stories. Papa John's Pizza was a big deal. 476-5040, I think it was. Yeah, so we're, as a lead student,
Yeah.
right? They had specials, super expensive now. I got money in my pocket now, and I'd still think that Papa John's is expensive.
Were you here in the Godfather days?
No, but we had Godfather Pizza and other places. Yeah.
Godfather's Pizza is pretty legendary to probably more of the kids that are like your age, just a few years ahead of me. I remember it and went there as a kid, but I don't have any like teenage memories from there. It was on the hill where Life Care Centers of America is now.
Yeah. Pearl Vision was there. So being like a college student and like I'm a guy who wears glasses and I just need something or I need contacts and like being here and not knowing where to get your hair cut, being here and not knowing where to get glasses, right?
Yeah.
Being here and not knowing, fill in the blank with like whatever you can think of because your parents aren't taking care of you anymore because you're 10 hours away from home.
Yeah.
And you made this decision willingly. You got to figure stuff out. But then I also like streets, I think for me are connected to like schools, parks. I think of Stewart Park. My first thought was Brian Gallagher. Me and my boys and Sean went out and played some wiffle ball one day during the summertime. Next time I saw him was at the school building during the summertime because I was one of those folks. He was one of those folks that would still end up at the school building even though the school was out.
Yeah.
I remember him saying to me, hey, you get back in town from Jekyll and we'll go to a Braves game. Yep. Mm-hmm. And as I was coming back, Chris Cretton, of all folks, called and said, hey, did you hear about Brian? I had no idea.
Yeah.
Chris was the one that shared it with me. That was the last conversation I had with Brian. But Stewart, I mean, I can rarely drive by there without thinking about Little Guy Hoops and, that Stewart gym.
Yeah.
But also just hanging with Brian, hanging with Sean.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember driving by Stewart Park one time as a kid, and it had rained a lot. Like there were a lot of flooded areas, and that field was flooded. And there were two guys that had backed up and put jet skis and were just doing all kinds of tricks and running around on the Stewart Park field right there. It's probably about 2 foot of water out there, and those guys were just getting it.
That is hilarious. That's some county stuff in the city. That's funny. All right. Well, then let's get out. This can open things up from all the way to Canada to, South Florida. I-75. So I've had some folks, I'll buy you a second. Exit 20, exit 25, exit 27, exit 33. So those are all connectors. I've been hanging out with Judge Morgan and Councilman Estes and Commissioner Collins, and we've been talking about interstates and what that has brought to this town. And like, do you know how many people live in Bradley County? Can you give me a number?
115,000.
Yeah, I heard 110, so we'll call it. Do you know how many people pass through Bradley County every day?
I can't imagine.
So it's the interstate, but it's also all these other thoroughfares that come through.
Yeah.
Going from county to county or whatever. But give me a number.
60,000.
50,000.
Okay.
Yeah. We are getting how many new residents to Bradley County every year?
Every year?
Mm-hmm.
7,000.
Wow.
Is that high?
1,000.
1,000. Okay.
But 1,000 a year, I mean, like we're not that big. Now, is that net? I don't know.
That's kind of where my mind is. Like,
that's what Denny had said.
How many are leaving and how many are staying?
Yeah, you got people leaving, but we got a whole bunch of folks coming this way,
Sure. Yeah.
But I mean, even I got off the phone with my brother-in-law coming down Chattanooga for an anniversary. And he was like, how far away is Atlanta? How far away is Nashville? How far away is Birmingham? When you get to Chattanooga, you got some really cool places within just a couple hour drive, right?
Yeah.
Another conversation we were having is like, and there's some mess that comes on the interstate as well. Comes right through our town, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can bring drugs, you can bring humans, you can bring a lot of mess. So I said all that. I-75. Just give me a story.
There's
first story.
Here just, I don't know, 10 years ago or so, it was at the place where dope's coming north, money's coming south. And we have a freaking bang up interstate interdiction team at the sheriff's office. So much so that it's even rumored that the same gentleman was popped a couple times and lost enough money that they found him face down in the Rio Grande. I don't know if that's true or not, but it was also said that the people he worked for had put orders out on one of those interdiction officers, and it wasn't long after that we ended our interdiction team. Now, even without that story, and if any of those rumors are not true, it did become to a place where it's not worth, like there's danger associated with this that we weren't willing to sustain at that time. But yeah, there's ugly stuff coming up and down that interstate. First story, this goes right along with the cruising the strip. We were idiot teenagers, and you wanted to get out of the grips of the city police department to race your little Ford Ranger. You'd get on to exit 25 going northbound and run them to Huff Parkway and flip it around and come right back down. So yeah. I gotta get away from police story. Everything I want to tell is a police story.
Nah, but I mean, like, I ain't gonna tell no police stories. I'm gonna talk about, man, coming here to Lee. I still had a sister that lived up in Ohio. Mm-hmm. I got a roommate who's from Virginia Beach. We just need to find something to do. Hey, let's go to Ohio this weekend. Hop on 75. All you're hitting is, you cross the Kentucky border, you go through Lexington, which ain't real exciting. You hit the skyline of Cincinnati, which is really cool. And then my sister just lived in, basically the next town, Middletown. But it was just the freedom of hopping, going straight up I-75. That was really cool.
Give me your parameters, north and south. You driving on I-75. Furthest you've been north, furthest you've been south.
Oh, to that Canadian border. We got people in Detroit. That's Warren. And then, we've crossed over, the Ambassador Bridge is right there that gets you into Windsor, Canada. And then heading south, I mean, you take 75 through Atlanta, and then 75 takes you to Savannah? Or are you getting off something else to go to Savannah?
I don't know.
I think it's something else. 75 keeps going down, but I mean, you're getting to Florida, right?
Yeah.
And then how does it snake through Florida? I can't remember, but I mean, Tampa. We've driven to Tampa.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
okay. What's the furthest south in Florida you've ever been by car? I-75 or not?
By car?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Is Daytona further south than Tampa?
A little bit, probably.
We've been to Miami, but that was flying. We've been to Key West.
Yeah.
But that was a cruise. So Daytona, Tampa.
Yeah. About the same. I'd say it's very similar for me. Same things in Detroit. To that Canadian border, I didn't cross over. But yeah, wherever, I've went to Ocala, I've went to Tampa. I can't remember how it shakes out because I don't think you're jumping off of I-75 onto something else to go to Daytona. I've done that. Where that happens, I don't know. Did we drive over to Jacksonville first or no? I don't remember. Yeah, 75 is a big deal. There was an acquaintance of mine that was at the sheriff's office, made a traffic stop on I-75. Do you know where, what's that church off of Harrison Pike right there? Is it Philippi?
Macedonia?
No. Anyways.
No, Macedonia's, that's Spring Place.
Right around 75 at Harrison Pike, he makes this traffic stop, and this lady gets out and just starts like attacking him, like physically attacking him. She's flipped her lid or something. I don't know. She steals his car. He ends up shooting her. It's investigated, and it's saw as a good shoot due to her behavior and what capability she just obtained by taking that car and all of its contents. You can imagine what things are in a police car. She had a kid in her car. That's a crazy story, isn't it?
Yeah.
I-75.
Philippi. Yeah.
Yeah, right in the back.
Prospect.
If you know where that church is, yeah.
Yeah.
If you know where that church is, you could go into that church parking lot.
Yeah.
And you can see right through the yard there. You could walk onto I-75.
Yeah, I know exactly
that's where the traffic stop was right there. Yeah. That's
Buddy,
not my story to tell, but that's a wild story.
But I could listen to you talk about police stories all day long, just so you know.
There's also a guy ran from the county going southbound on 75, and he wrecked his car at high speeds into that Harrison Pike Bridge, and it just like caught on fire, and he didn't make it. I don't remember why.
I don't know if I can hear stories like that all day long.
No, that's ugly stories. That's ugly stories.
What if I sent you out to like Chatta Valley?
Chatta
Are
Valley.
you going to tell me a police story, or are you going to reminisce on some other memories?
It's one of my favorite roads.
Yeah.
In Bradley County. I think today, if you said, "Tell me the story of Bradley County," it's one of the first roads I'd take you on.
Yeah.
Because it's still, now there's some construction taking place. People are buying property out there and building big, beautiful homes now. But I love Chatta Valley. I used to go to, God, we went to 6 or 7 Bible schools every summer. Any church that drove a van down Rolling Brook Drive, we'd jump on that thing and we'd go to Bible school. And one of the places that we went every year was New Friendship Baptist Church. Mm-hmm. And it's a postcard.
It is.
I didn't appreciate that as a child.
Yeah.
Because that was just Northeast Bradley.
I don't know how many times I've taken that picture. Yeah.
It's but yeah, we'd go out there and we'd go to Bible school, and years later I lived down at Windermere, which is the neighborhood just near the golf course down there at the end of Chatta Valley. And I could have easily made time by jumping over the road to Dry Valley and going up Dry Valley to get to Walker Valley.
Nope.
Never.
No.
Absolutely not. It was my reset on the way home. Mm-hmm. I just drive down Chatta Valley, man. And there, I would see, I never stopped and got to meet them or anything, but I could almost, you could set you watch by some of those farmers that are still up, those old timers. They're, pulling in to feed or whatever they're going to do. You'd see them. They're working, man. It's alive up there in a way that it's been alive for decades and decades and decades and decades. These are descendants of people who farmed.
Yeah, there's some origin story there in Chatta Valley in there.
There is.
Of this community.
That's what the old timers would call the Shada Valley. I always like to point that out because my grandmother, my great grandfather, which is my grandmother's dad, I'll have to look up the word because it's a word I've never heard used in any other way. And I don't even want to attempt to use it because I don't want to get it wrong. But I looked this up after she told me they did this, but there's an old house on Chatta Valley, and right behind it, there's a creek. I want to say it's like Signing or something like that. But they would get in the creek, these men, and they would net fish. And it would be like a big get-together. There'd be several families, and the kids are playing. The women are cleaning and cooking, and the men are just pulling fish out of that creek with this little net system. And we're talking, my grandmother was a teenager from these memories she's telling me about. So, yeah, Chatta Valley's special to me. It's kind of borrowed heritage because I've never really had family live up there other than my grandmother's people came from there. But they weren't like big property owners like you would know Chatta Valley for. That's a cool road, man.
Remember that little cemetery we went to that one time? Hidden behind that farm?
Yeah, that's the Taylor Cemetery.
Yeah.
Those people pretty much established Bradley County from the way I read it. Yeah, and I'd still love to see that brought to its former glory, but my fear is that it was probably dug into to build the pad for that barn. And I'd hate to even know whether they messed up those graves or not. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm a walker, man. I love that road too. We've walked that a few times. How about APD-40?
APD-40.
You could tell me a Popo story about APD-40, couldn't you?
Yeah, I've always been confused on, the way it's built and the way we refer to other cities' bypass. We call it our bypass, but takes you straight through Cleveland. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, all kinds of police stories on
What's
APD-40.
What's that stand for?
I looked this up. It hadn't been a year since I looked this up, but I can't remember. I can't remember.
Was it something that made sense?
Yeah, kind of.
Oh, okay.
Kind of.
All right.
It's also tied to Highway 64, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that the continuance of Highway 64?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. APD-40, man. Gosh, yeah. I mean, I grew up, I had a guy that I called my second dad. His name was Larry Armour, and he owned a little livestock company, and you could see the barn from APD-40. It said like Sea Rock City or something on the top of it. If you were going toward exit 20 on APD-40, just a little piece before you get to exit 20, there was a horse farm on the right there. You familiar with what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
They sold horses on Friday nights, and they had a junk auction on Tuesday and Thursdays. Well, my teenage years were spent on that place, working that junk auction, working that horse sale. And, yeah, he spent a lot of his, the later years on that location, trying to gain access to that road for his business. He wanted to expand his business and do some things. But we built at the end of the show barn's not there anymore. But at the end of the show barn, we closed in an area and finished it and built a tack store. It was like a country and western store. You could go there and buy your butt patch Wranglers, or you could buy a saddle, or you could buy some spurs and boots. And I helped put the walls up on that thing and build it. And it was one of my first, I would call it my first jobs, was on Friday nights during the horse sale. I stayed back there and I sold jeans and boots and saddles and bridles and all kinds of stuff like that. That's on APD-40. Humphreys Bridge crosses APD-40 right there. And that's the way I'd go to get home. We lived on a parsonage at Johnson Woods, and that's where we'd be. We'd have to cross that bridge to get there from that side.
So 9/11 hits. How old are you in 2001?
2001, I'm 16.
You driving at 16, probably?
I probably had the ability to drive. I didn't have a car until I was probably a little older.
By the time September 2002 rolls around, gas prices have skyrocketed. Like, I remember coming here in 95 and it being 99 cents still. 9/11 hits and, things go up. But like, we're a year after that. I've got a job. Maybe this is 2003. Yeah, it's 2003 because Seth is born in August. And we're living out off Bates Pike. And gas prices go up, and I decided that every Friday that fall semester, I would ride my bike to Ocoee Middle School from Shady Hollow.
It's a pretty good ride.
It is. Early in the morning. It's really dark.
Yeah.
So I'm going down Bates Pike early in the morning in the dark.
Crazy.
There's no shoulder.
Crazy.
This isn't wise, but I'm a young man. And so then I hop on Highway 64.
Mm-hmm.
And then I hop on APD-40.
How'd you get over to 64? Randolph Samples? Or?
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, because I told myself that 64 had pretty good shoulder.
Yeah.
So then I hop on, and you pass Sonic, right? And then Calfee's, and then, hey, I hop on the bypass, and then it's got a pretty good shoulder. And I remember riding my bike to Ocoee Middle School I didn't last the whole semester.
Did you ever just go through town? Like downtown or even over through, yeah.
That was my route because it just seemed I wanted to stay simple. And
big shoulders were attractive.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But
like, that's a memory for me. because it's not really now that I'm thinking about it, I've always categorized it as like a 9/11 memory, but no, this is like 2 years after, and gas prices are still, and like Sarah and I mean, just we're making decisions financially. She's staying home, we're not taking fancy vacations. There's a while we didn't even have cable. So it was like, I'm going to save us some gas money. How much money did I save us?
Not a lot. Not a lot.
But it was fun. And it was that kind of stage of my life. It was just like, I'm just going to do this thing. I've max 6 Fridays.
Yeah.
4 at least. So 4, 5, 6 Fridays. I'm on my bike and I'm riding home too, because you get there and you got to get back. Right. So yeah, the bypass, I mean, people don't go 55 miles an hour. And when you're on a bike, who knows?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, nobody goes. I mean, there's a spot right there on APD-40, just toward town from 64 highway that for the police, it's like taking candy from a baby. I mean, there's generations now of sheriff's deputies that on occasion they pull off the side of the road there between Benton Pike and 64 and just run that back radar, and they're getting 75s and 80s all day.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm with you on keeping the big shoulder as much as you could. But that's wild. Riding from there to Ocoee Middle on a Friday. That's something else. Yeah, I could do all kinds of APD-40 stories, and especially I could do kid stories. I could do police stories. I fought a man right there at 64 highway, right about where I'm talking about. I'm pulling out of, where Calfee's little store is there on 64. Yeah. I'm pulling out of there one time. I'd stopped in there, and there's a call comes over that there's someone being chased by like a Ford F-350. They're trying to run them off the road. This is a domestic situation. And I'm okay, update the location. And they're like, we're passing Taylor's Market. So I'm gonna get to APD-40 about the same time they do. And sure enough, I pull up onto the on-ramp and I just slow down and wait, and I see them go by, and this thing's eating the bumper of this car, trying to almost like pit maneuver this car. So I tell the dispatcher, have the caller just keep driving. Because I'm gonna light this truck up, and I want the truck to stop, but I don't want the car to stop as well. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
If the truck stops, now I've got the separation that I want, because if they're trying to hurt this person, I don't want them both stopping. So that's what happens. I stop the truck, and it's very simple. It's one of those, this guy jumps out pointing his fingers, and it's like, hey, get back in the car, get back in the car. I have no clue what's going on. And we end up in a tussle right there. I almost threw this guy in the back of his truck, and he pooped his pants. But
true story. That's what happened.
Absolutely true story. He won't comply with any verbal commands. His body language is very aggressive, and it's very quick. It's very quick. Like, I just saw you trying to run a car off the road, and now you've gone from, you're not complying with verbal commands, and you're coming towards me. Yeah, this guy's on the ground. And anyway, I cuff him up. I'm still trying to figure out what the crap's going on. Mm-hmm. Cuff him up, put him in the back of my car, and I go to talk to him. He says, hey, I hate to tell you this, but I shit my pants. That's quote unquote. And I was like, well,
could you tell? Could you smell it?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before he told you?
About the same time. It hit me about the same time that he told me. Yeah, it was all stupid. I won't get into the backstory of it, but right there on APD-40, buddy. But yeah, APD-40 connects to everything. My truck's broke down on APD-40. I've run out of gas on APD-40. I've walked down APD-40. I stopped one time and I saw a guy walking in one of the absolute coldest days I can ever remember. I saw a guy walking down the road, and I knew, just because of what I do, this guy just got out of jail, and he's in like shorts and short sleeves walking down APD-40. And I just stop and I like find a jacket in the back of my truck. And I'm like, here, you want me to take you somewhere? And he was like, no, I'm good to just going right over here. Oh, okay. But, yeah, APD-40 all day, man. That's a major vein in the body of Cleveland and Bradley County for sure.
All right. One more. Let's slow it down. Coey Street.
Coey Street.
Mm-hmm.
First thought is getting out of school at Bradley Junior High School and either going to the store across the street to get a Powerade or walking down and sneaking into the YMCA and shooting basketball.
The old Y downtown.
The old, yeah, we'd go to the old YMCA, and for the longest, I never could figure out, like, how do they not know and kick us out of here? We might have got kicked out once or twice. I'm like, how do they not know we're not members? And I, as an adult looking back, I'm like, they absolutely knew. And there was somebody with a big old giant heart that was just like, they're here playing basketball. They could be doing a lot of other things, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've been on both sides of that.
Yeah.
You know,
you and I went down and watched, we watched some people protest and debate over a Confederate monument.
We did. Talked about that in class today.
That was a neat time in our lives.
Yeah. We just sat on that bench.
Just sat on a park bench.
Watched who was on this side of the street and watched who was on that side of the street. And
yeah,
we'd identify people that we knew on this side. We'd identify people we knew on that side. I mean, it was, yeah, that was interesting. Because we had talked about the idea of what ended up in the paper coming from possibly the city council. It was like, hey, let's go get that federal monument, that Union monument up at Fort Hill, and like put it right in front of the Confederate monument and create some context. I always thought that was a really good idea. Nothing ever came of that, and no one has ever stood by that monument since. It's interesting how things like that work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the city would have to do that with permission from the Daughters of the Confederacy, wouldn't they?
Well, I'm not talking about moving the Confederate monument.
Right.
I'm talking about go to get that other one. I don't
Right.
think that's the Daughters of the Confederacy that put that Union. It's just like, it's not nearly as nice, not nearly as cool. It's just a big old block.
Yeah.
You know what
what I'm saying is where would they put it?
Oh,
because
put
the
it in
Daughters of
front.
the Confederacy
I gotcha.
own, and one of the greatest political moves I've ever seen. In 1912, the newly elected mayor.
Yeah, we know the story.
He breaks the tie. He's the final vote. I think he was. I'm not going to say it. I don't remember, so I'm not going to say. But he breaks the tie. He's the final vote that votes to get this statue. And as soon as it's done, he has a celebration where his daughters are even dressed up like they had like sashes on to represent Confederate states. And the city donates that small triangle of property to the Daughters of the Confederacy. And 110 years later, that's where all of this boils down to, is
a little triangle.
Can't touch it.
Yeah.
So if you're going to move because I'm a fan of that idea.
Yeah. Because you're creating a lot more context.
Create context and bring
it's
the
right
whole
next
thing
to the
here.
library. It's right next to the historical branch of the library.
But then you have to, are we going to create enough right of way right here in the middle of Ocoee Street to get that monument in here? Or are we going to get the Daughters of the Confederacy to say, hey, you can put it on our property, which they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
But all of that just intrigued me.
Yeah.
Even the part where we're watching like elected officials from our town stand and yell at people across the street how they were paid and bussed in by George Soros. And I'm like, I've known this guy since elementary school. But in all of that, I sat on the park bench and I just observed. Listened and was interested.
I think it's good practice.
I was interested.
Mm-hmm.
I saw one thing that kind of torqued me off, and that was a little thing. It was none of the big stuff bothered me at all. It was just, it's kind of like living this life, man, where these ideas are present and we have the freedom to have them on either side.
What bothered you?
When the two dudes who were, they felt God's calling, I guess, to defend the statue, they came over with flags while the protesters across the street were like kneeling and praying. And as one of them was walking through those people, it was an act of intimidation. As one of them were walking through there, I saw him intentionally stop and go back and make sure that his flag draped the shoulders of probably a teenage girl. And I just remember really having to like handcuff myself to that bench because I'm like, man, that's somebody's daughter. Forget what your ideas are on either side. I don't care. Treat people with some decency. And this is probably a 40-something-year-old man. And he didn't stop and make sure that his flag brushed the gentlemen that were over there. This was, I estimate her to be probably 17, 18 years old. She never moved. Kept her head bowed. And I literally, in my mind, fist fought this guy all over that street because it pissed me off so bad. It represented everything that I can't stand about cowardly men. That's just a coward move. You only did that because you knew that little girl wouldn't do a thing about it. Anyway, I don't know who I'm talking to, but it was, I remember that day being a great day because you and I, where had we been? And we stopped back by was it the Fort Loudon? You remember this?
I don't know where we've been.
What's that
We've been to
really,
some spots, buddy.
what's that really, really, really old fort up at the river?
Out of G Creek?
No.
Like that original one?
Go the other way.
Fort Loudon, you gotta go up past Sweetwater, go to Fort Loudon, right?
Yeah, it wasn't Fort Loudon. This was over on like Highway 68 over, almost like you're going to Tech. We were over that way for something.
I don't know. Was it basketball?
No, I don't.
You and I just took a trip.
You don't remember you about run your truck out of gas?
I mean, if Sarah's listening to this, there's like 12 family stories of me running out of gas.
Oh, yeah, but this was, you were out of gas.
But I didn't, did I?
No.
I know my gauge. That's my go-to line. I know my gauge.
Yeah. Even you were like, all right, what's the move here? If I was like, well, we just don't touch your brakes. Let that thing roll as far as we can get.
Yes, I've been there a good dozen times.
But anyways, we visited that fort and the old, it's got like big log walls and
Harriman.
Is it Harriman?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
That's where we were. And we got wind.
Kingston. It's right there on the water.
Yeah, it's right on the water.
Mm-hmm.
So we had been there and we had got word that it was popping off down at the monument. And I was like, let's just go. Let's just go see. Just like no sides, no whatever. Let's just go watch this process play out in our hometown. And it was cool to see.
Yeah. Coe Street, man. I mean, for me, that's a Coe Middle School. That's your Bradley Jr.
Yeah.
But I mean, my boys have come and hung out with me before they got into middle school, and we go down to Loopy's, right? Coe Street. Or across the way, that little pizza shop that's there now. That's been who knows how many things, but
it's Jameli's now.
Yeah.
Used to be Cheesy's.
Yeah, those are good memories. Coe Coffee has turned into a good memory. Every time I roll by there, just running some errand, I'll get something for Sarah and just say, hey, I got you something. Come see me. I love a Coe Street.
How about the Christmas parade?
Yeah.
How about the block party?
Never been.
You ever been to a block party?
Been here 30 years.
Why?
Now, I've been to Centenary once.
The best version of the block
Halloween.
Party. How long ago?
Never made it. I mean, that's probably 25 years ago.
Oh, no, you need to go.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's Centenary pops
Take it
off.
back. I've been to a block party once. I have memories now.
Yeah.
Yeah, once, but never again.
Yeah.
But I love St. Luke's down that way, Broad Street.
Yeah.
Down there. I mean, just I want more people to know about, Gardener's Market.
Did you go to the Easter service at St. Luke's?
This year, no, but I have been.
So have you walked in the mausoleum? Because they open it at the Easter service.
Yeah. Father Joel, actually, they don't do it very often, but when we did one of our walking tours, he opened it up for us.
Okay.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
But that's the only time of the year that they open it up.
It's an
Cooley
Street story.
Yeah. I just love our town. I love what our downtown is. I think I love what our downtown is becoming. That's been the big conversation this last week in class of like bringing in Bill Estes for sure.
Yeah.
Of like, I mean, he sits on that council that have been making decisions for, I think he said 19 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that that's been developing and will continue in the next 10. I mean, this little town might change.
Huh.
I hope it's for the better. There's a lot of people who think it will be. So,
yeah.
This is our town, man. I wanted to do this today because I'd like to craft something. You're really encouraging me to do this, but this local history emphasis, you and I would like to find some voices to sit with us and go, tell us more. We got a clue. We know something. We've lived a life here, but there's so much more that we want to piece together. So maybe let's use this episode as kind of that beginning of putting something together.
Yeah, man. I think so. I think it'd be good. I think, this is probably off-air conversation, but we're coming to a time where I think you and I could really start working this and taking some of your ideas and putting some voices with it and really create something interesting for, especially, the crowd that's listening to us right now. They're a local crowd. I think they'd be very interested to hear what we have to say. And I think whatever we create could be dual purpose. And the fact that you could use it in your classroom, I'll use it in my classroom. Let's just document some stuff, man. Let's get some voices on the topics that we want to talk about and just see what happens.
Yeah, let's do it.
We pause in here?
Think so. Because this one will never end. I mean, there's just too many.
Yeah, we haven't even got down to Blue Springs area or Spring Place, Ladd Springs. Right. Yeah.
You in a cop car, me in some walking shoes. I mean, like, we've covered this place.
Yeah, I'm going to try to lay off the police
No,
stories
you're
next
not.
time.
No, you're not.
Because there's so much.
I'm not going to let you.
I know, but there's so much life outside of a uniform that I've lived.
I know. I thought I'd catch maybe, family story here.
Well, we're not in the right part of town yet.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there. Hey, those of you listening, thanks for joining the conversation. Tell us a story. Reach out to us in some way, whatever that way is. I won't pressure you. I don't care what it is. I genuinely want to hear your voice. Tell us that Paul Huff story that we don't have. Tell us that Keith Street story. I know you got a story about cruising the strip. Those of you listening to me, you're local people. I know you did it. I know you loitered at the Ace Hardware. Let us know. But thanks again for listening. Anything else to add, Paul?
Nope.
All right. Press and pause.
Man, that's downright mindful. You've been listening to Downright Mindful with your hosts, Matt Paris and Paul Salzville. Produced by Josh Morris. Intro and outro production by Derek Kinsey. You can find us wherever fine podcasts are downloaded. Thanks for listening.